Tanya.
Okay, welcome live stream people.
Yeah, you can just turn it and
Tanya, can you pull that other part down? It's really right in the middle of the screen for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you're not using it anyway. Thank you. That's a good thing.
They want Anyone else want to gather back around that box? See if it helps.
I would have done that first thing. Somebody just go get her, it's not that far away. She's not very far away.
Pull up and lay on the wall.
I've been there before. The only reason they won't move is because she totally don't like she's in the and he won't move because he has a collection of everything's his name and he couldn't take them with him. I mean, I have my own gun reason, like I don't want to leave my yard and my kitty, but.
All right, let's just get started.
Okay, we're going to try and work with this for now.
That's good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, good.
Okay, I am providing kind of an overview. This was a long trip. So the youth, 5 of the youth and me and Jonathan, went to Mexico on a pilgrimage to the border put on by Mennonite Mission Network. So we learned about and interacted with about 10 different programs and agencies. So I can't mention or explain them and they would all get mixed up in your head, but I do want to praise Mennonite Mission Network and Frontera de Cristo. So Frontera de Cristo, which means Christ at the border, was the one who walked us through each of our days. And we had multiple things planned on each day. And they just did a fabulous job of balancing the educational pieces, the emotional pieces of understanding the plight of immigrants, the hopeful educational pieces like all these different groups have networked with each other in the most beautiful grassroots way.
What should I do with the microphone? What's working, what isn't?
It's good.
Okay. So the Presbyterian Church played a big part. Mennonites were a part of it, but they support each other. So we had a real balance of learning, fun, heartbreak, and travel. It was pretty packed. Okay. So, go ahead. Sorry. We have not had much time to prepare for this. So, I just wanted to put up, this is Mark, I don't want last names, from Frontera de Cristo. And I just wanted to put the name up. This is their offices in Douglas, Arizona. Yeah, okay. Which is the border town shared with, so then the border runs through it. Up in Arizona is Douglas, and the bottom half is Agua Prieta, which means dirty water. Maybe because of floods that churn up. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. This is worshiping. Hannah found the baby, of course. Worshiping, this is just a food truck that we got amazing hot dogs from.
Sometimes when we had to show pictures, you turn some of these lights off to see the pictures better. Would that help us?
Sure. Do you know where?
We just pull
Yeah,
it.
everybody just up your head.
Above you,
This one?
Sure.
I want this one too.
Thank you. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Okay, this is just us having a good time. Just bear in mind, all of these pictures, it is 107 or more. It was so hot. And people kept saying, so why did you come at this time of year? And we were like, it was the only time it fit, because it would be like going in, I don't know, the dead of winter in Winnipeg, I don't know. Okay, go ahead, Mariana. Oh yeah, good food. Okay, one out of many pictures of the border wall. Go ahead. This is a prayer vigil, right? Is that what it's called? That we did in Douglas, in Arizona, along the street where the cars lined up to cross the border into Mexico at night. That was very meaningful. Go ahead. So we read the name of the person on the cross. It was someone, a migrant who had died while crossing, and it had their name on and the date that their body was found. You can just click, there's a bunch of these. So as we lined up, we yelled out the name of the person, and then as a group we said presente, to show that they are present. And then we laid the cross against the curb, and so as the cars were driving up, they just saw a row of crosses with names on them, and people watched and found it very interesting, clearly. Some people waved or gave a thumbs up, or one person honked. They do this every Tuesday. Can anyone remember how long they've been doing it? Jonathan?
13 years?
That's-
3 years.
I thought it was 20.
Was it 90?
More than 10?
A long time.
Maybe 20. Sorry. They have done this every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Nope, 7 our time, 5 p.m. their time. So it's rush hour to get over the border. They've never missed. Sometimes only one person has done it. We were a group of about 10. And it was so cool. It was so emotional. Some of the crosses said, no identificado. No identificado. There was someone found and they don't know who it is. One of the crosses, I think Riker maybe had it, had no identificado crossed through, and on the other side was the name of the person. The University of Texas has a program where they use DNA to identify remains. And they've exhumed or found remains for up to 300 people, and they've identified 43, made a match, so that a family was able to find out what had happened to their loved one. What's next? Kate's pictures are next? Oh, I see. Okay. Let me see. We learned about how politics and countries and organized crime control and impact the people who want to cross our border with Mexico. But we also learned about individuals and personal family stories. So there was a good mix of the macro and the micro. Participating in the prayer vigil and also in writing cards to migrants who are in the United States in detention centers. We learned about the program. I think someone's talking about that. But as you're taking all this information in, watching the documentary, it's incredibly emotional, like make your stomach hurt. And you can really easily feel hopeless. And so we had an opportunity to write cards to people in the detention center and the prayer vigil, and some of those things just really helped to feel like there is something I can do that makes a difference. I think that's it for me. Let's see. Oh, we met with a few elderly people in this huge group of like 30 people. who grew up in Agua Prieta and remember what the border was like 60, 50 years ago, and like how it's changed over the years. And that was so interesting because they talked about being able to cross back and forth freely, and commerce and relationships and workforce were mutually beneficial. And then slowly over the years, but really kind of starting with President Clinton, the border became a political platform, and each president has put up more and more borders and made things more dangerous and more difficult. So it was really interesting to hear them talk about how it used to be and the impact that this all this security and all this physical infrastructure has had on how the two towns function and how it feels to be in the two towns. I wanted to tell one story about a Mexican woman who helped us a bunch, did a bunch of our hosting and leading us around, and her name was Hoka. And she is someone who has always had a visa. She is someone who's always had a visa. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, cool. Right. Okay, Hoka. Oh, it's much better. Has always had a visa, usually a religious visa, and because she is a Frontera de Cristo employee, full-time employee, and their office is in Douglas, Arizona. But she's a Mexican citizen, and she explained a couple years ago her visa was stolen, and so she went and got another one, and that was stolen. It was just a weird coincidence, and they didn't let her have another one for a year. And so for a year, she couldn't go to her office, but she also has family in the U.S., and so she couldn't go and celebrate the birth of a baby. Anything that was happening on the U.S. side, she couldn't go. And she said, I had seen the wall, but that was the first time I saw the wall. And it just helped me to reflect on the fact that none of us were able to see the wall like that. We went back and forth, walking and in cars, with complete immunity. And anyway, I thought that was a helpful story. Ruben?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Kate's pictures are next.
No, Ruben's next.
Oh, Ruben's next. He just in
He
the
didn't
picture.
give me any pictures.
I don't have any pictures. I'm going to talk about like the policy at the border right now, which is called prevention through deterrence. And this policy was put into place during a surge of migration that came about during the Clinton administration, kind of due to like NAFTA and that economic policy, which caused like larger corporations to outcompete a lot of smaller Mexican farmers that relied on that, industry to support them and their families. And so they would move to the U.S. and that is really what caused, this increase in border security and stuff. And as such, Clinton to reduce access to the border by building walls, making it far more difficult to cross near populated areas, which is the prevention through deterrence policy, where they would make it more difficult to cross at populated areas so that it would push the migrants to cross like in the desert or unpopulated areas where it's much more dangerous and it's more likely for them to die and, have those risks. And due to this, thousands have lost their lives for the past 30 years or so, mainly from the dehydration and the heat with other factors, while trying to cross in dangerous areas, such as the Sonoran Desert, which is around like Tucson and Douglas. It's extremely hot out there. And that is where many of the remains that Tanya was talking about are found. And they're not all identified. They don't know, who they are. There's also, a lot of question around how many have actually died on the border, since you can't find all the bodies. And there's many efforts like, go out and find the bodies, but they can't find them all because it's a massive area. And, it's just impossible to search that whole place. We saw a documentary which was talking about this family that, was searching desperately for their son or brother, and they just could not find him. They don't know, what had happened to it. And deserts are very dangerous places for, many reasons. And the coyotes, or, like the guides who take them across this desert and across the border, do not really care about their lives or their well-being. They are far more interested in the money they can give them. And so, many people die from that. And they're usually affiliated with, cartel or, organized crime. And so, like, Frontera de Cristo, tried to set up, guides that were moral and would take care of them, but they couldn't do that without, the cartel, it's pretty risky. And so, so border walls and checkpoints have increased over the 30 years since this policy came into effect, with the aesthetic wall being one of the first, and it was, smaller and kind of less of a thing, it was aesthetic. It wasn't really very pretty. And that wall had spikes that faced inwards towards the U.S. instead of, outwards towards Mexico, because if they've been facing towards Mexico, then, that's like they're keeping them in a prison. And the Mexican government didn't really like that imagery, and so the U.S. had them pointing in instead of out. And over the course of the years, this aesthetic wall was replaced by, higher, red metal walls, which is the ones they have now, mostly. But they've all been replaced, and, it's been steadily increasing in height and security over that time. Some of the sections of the wall right now are 18 feet high, and they've got barbed wire along the American side, big rolls of it. It's very high. And other areas are 30 feet high. And at 18 feet high, if you fall off that, you might break a leg, but you're not necessarily going to die. But at 30 feet, you can't really survive that, which is, messed up. Almost everything that we do with regards to the border is designed so that it would be so horrible that people would not want to cross anymore. That's the whole, deterrence policy. Currently, Trump is focusing on public cruelty and deportations and detention centers to dissuade people from crossing the border, making it much more dangerous and risky, which funnels them, as I said, to more dangerous areas where they are more likely to have to walk through the desert, and many people do die. And we heard a lot about a detention center where, migrants are sent to after they are caught in the U.S. And it's really no different from, a prison or anything like that. And the people that run these prisons make, a large amount of money off of the migrants living there. And so it's beneficial for them to have people sent to the detention centers. And many of them stay there for, months or even years while they're waiting for a trial where they are, both stopped and deported. And they've not really committed a crime beyond entering the country, and yet they're still held for so long, which benefits, the corporations. We heard about this in Tucson mostly, where there's an organization named EVA that sends a couple of people from Mennonite and Presbyterian churches to visit and make connections with the migrants living, stuck in these detention centers. And they found that, there's pretty terrible conditions, but it's a very nice organization. It's cool to hear about them. And we wrote letters for Christmas cards to the people living in the detention centers. Yeah. And most of these people we charge with only a misdemeanor, and they'll be deported across the border.
What does EVA stand for? Do you have that? I'll find it.
Eloy.
Yeah, Eloy
Visitation.
visitation.
And accompaniment.
Can you say it into the microphone?
Eloy, visitation, and accompaniment. Eloy is a detention center.
It's an MCC program, right?
No, it's local. I think MCC supports
Supports
local
them.
people, and it's not just Mennonites.
Yeah.
Right,
Nice.
okay. MCC is a supporter.
Yeah.
And the point of these detention centers being so bad is that these stories get out. They go back and they tell everybody around them about how terrible the detention centers are, and that dissuades people from going across the border. It's just another example of the deterrence policy effect. And they make it extremely miserable just for that exact reason, because they don't want people to come anymore. But the important thing about this policy is that it does not work. People will always try to cross the border if they believe there's a better life here in the U.S., and preventing it just causes more and more deaths as they are forced to be, get more and more extreme measures to be able to get across and try to establish a better life for them and their families, because they might not have that in, Mexico. And currently, asylum seekers are, just kind of not their states can't come across at all. And so, if they're desperate enough, they will try to cross, and it will become, just dangerous for them. So, yeah. The only thing this policy is really good at is killing people. It's like seeking out a better life in the United States. There are alternatives to this policy, such as just improving our ability to process migrants through legal pathways and opening up those legal pathways more. People are far less likely to cross the border illegally if there are ways to do it legally, such as work visas or asylum seekers. Prior to the 90s, there were tons of workers who went across the border and worked, and they would go back to Mexico to live there, and they were just going to cross to work. And that only really changed when the border service shut down. Yep. What Trump has been doing with the border is just completely shutting it down. There are way fewer migrants going across now than there have been. Yep. Which we heard from many of the people that we talked to there. That's all.
Kate?
How long has this policy been in effect? About maybe 45, 50 years ago, my family went to Mexico, and we just walked across the bridge just shopping and just came back, and there wasn't any questions or anything. So I'm just wondering.
You can still do that, I think.
It mostly started during the Clinton administration in the 90s.
If you have a passport and you're an American citizen, you can come and go. We just walked through, no one stopped us. The kind of Mexican border workers waved, and then on the way back through, we had to stop and answer questions and show our passport, but if you're an American citizen, you can come and go. If you're in a vehicle during rush hour, you'll wait. It really backs up.
Yeah, they have to search your trunk, and they have dogs.
Yeah, so I want to share my very amazing experience during the border trip. So we did a lot of fun things, and I want to share to you. This is Shalom Mennonite Church in Arizona. This is the first morning we woke up and we joined this church service where we made a lot of friends during the whole trip. We made a lot of friends. And this is one of our first friends that we, Her name is Marguerite, that we made during the trip. Wait, next. Yeah, we played with the baby. So she she had to babysit 2 babies. So she had a little difficult. So me and Hannah come help her and play with the baby. Okay, next one. Oh, this is we help. This is a picture of me and Hannah help wash the dishes. We actually help wash dishes after every meal, almost every day. Me, Hannah, and Maya.
For sure for breakfast.
Yeah, for breakfast, every morning. Okay. This is the picture. We made friends. We made a new friend with this guy. When we went to the desert. His name is Brian. Okay, next one. Oh yeah, there's just a picture of us having fun riding in the back of the truck. Oh, okay, so this picture is in Mexico already. When we went to Mexico, this is the plaza. It's called the plaza, where there was a big stage. It was a big place where you come there, and there was a stage, and then people doing a lot of stuff like riding bike or dancing, skating, yeah, all that fun activities. And what I really love about Mexico is it gets really fun and vibrant.
Yeah.
It gets really fun at night when people go out and do a lot of things. And this is also where I made some more friends. My favorite part is just to go out and explore things and to have some human connection, to like interact and talk to people and to learn a lot of things from them, learn about their culture, about their life, like what they do in Mexico, and it was pretty interesting. Oh, this is, wait, no, it's not a picture. It's a video. Me, Hannah, and Maya got a chance to, so we was driving home after a long day, and then we drove through the plaza. This is what happened in the plaza. So every Thursday night, they open like an event where they singing, dancing on the stage, and then there was a band on the stage, and people gather and dancing, and we drove through, and then me and Hannah and Maya really want to join them. So the rest of the group just went home and went to bed. We had a curfew, but we really want to join them. We really want to go dancing. It was really fun. And we get to experience like
Stay with the group.
we get to experience like the culture, like something that people do in Mexico.
And actually, the person from Frontera de Cristo went with them. So
Yeah,
we didn't just send them off. You know.
Wait, can you play?
The first night we got to Mexico, the girls started begging to go dancing, and we were like, we don't really know where parties, well, isn't there a quince? Well, we don't know. And anyway, they just kept begging until a Frontera de Cristo woman said, I will take you to the public dance every Thursday. So ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, Kate, you might want to step aside.
What?
She's gonna play the video. How do we play the video? Well, this is just viewing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet this. Yeah,
Sorry. Oh, we might not be able to.
the software isn't good enough. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. No video. Next slide.
Nice dance. Ciao.
Me and Hannah, we were very professional. Maya was good too. She was learning and she was really good. This picture is when we visit. It's called a women.
It was a cooperative.
Cooperative.
Yeah. We visit and then we help to cook. And we help cook. There's multiple pictures of we help cooking. Next one too. Yeah. And then we get to play and spend time with the kids there. Like there was spend time with the children, and that's also one of my favorite part of the trip. I had so much fun. Okay. Yeah, the kids really love us. A lot of them, they just keep like, come to me and ask me to play with them and give me a hug, give me flowers. Like they pick flowers off the sidewalk and they give it to me. But that was really cute. And one of them folded a boat from paper and give it to me. It was really cute. I had a lot of fun. There was more. Oh, this is what I took a picture of some of the food that we ate the whole trip. The food was really good. Okay, this is called mango something. It's kind of like a drink with mango, condensed milk, ice. It's really refreshing and it's very good. Yes, this is from hot dog truck.
Yeah, food truck, yeah.
Yeah, hot dog food truck. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember, but it was good. Okay. all the food that we ate in Mexico was all homemade. And yes, it's very, very good. I want to go back. Yeah, just pictures of the food, of what we ate, Oh no, that's all. Yeah, so my experience was, I had a lot of fun making friends. So we not just make friends with the people in the organization. We make friends with like people that outside of the organization. On our first night, we arrived in Mexico. Me and Hannah was inside, and then we heard really loud noise of kids playing outside, and we really wanted to come out and join them. And then we go across the street. They live across the street where we stayed at. And then we go talk to them. They were playing basketball, and then they start to go bike, and they do a lot of things, which is like a lot different than in here, because like in Mexico they stay up really late and they do a lot of like fun activities at night. And then we met 2 girls who our age, and they speak English, because we like the whole trip we made friends with a lot of people, but we were also like very struggle with communicating with them. We have to use a lot of like body language, and we know some Spanish. Yeah, but we still need a lot of support from like Google Translate and all that. But yeah, and every time I go out and talk to people, we have really short time of free time, very short free time. So every time I get a chance to go out, explore things myself, I always take that opportunity, go out and talk to people, interact with people, and then even though it was really short conversation, I feel really close and feel very attached through our conversations. I learned a lot of things about their life, their culture, and what they do. I just learned a lot through conversations and all that.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Actually, I think Riker's going to go next. I'm going to jump in here. I just wanted to say that we had very little downtime. Basically, we had 2 to 4, which like approximately siesta time, but sometimes we were late getting back. And we had been in the heat and walking and doing, a lot of walking in the heat. So our Loa Bontrager was a Mennonite missions woman who was with us and is a little older than me. And she and I would limp into our 1 air-conditioned room and lay on our beds and be very sad when it was 3:45 and time to go again. But Hannah and Kate are 2 of the most outgoing people I know, and they made friends everywhere. It was amazing. Language, it didn't even occur to them for language to be a barrier. It was really cool. What do you think, Riker? And then the rest of us just dovetail on them. They would meet the people, and then we'd all get to talk to them. I found a new piece of the wall.
Yep.
Came home.
Okay, so we are wrapping back around to the wall again, because I think I was supposed to go before Kate, but whatever. I'm going to go over a few of the facts of the wall and like the people who die and the organizations, that kind of stuff. Some of it you heard from Ruben, but I thought I'd go over a lot of it more in detail. So let's start off at the construction. Before the 1920s, 1925, there was just nothing in terms of the wall. Really a defined border other than waypoints built in, I think it was the 1845 treaty that defined the border along the U.S.-Mexico boundary, I guess. It wasn't until 1925 that the very first, my mistake, 1909 that the first barbed wire was ever put up. And that was mostly around cities, and that was mostly to actually prevent crime from going out of the cities, from what I've read. There wasn't anything we would call a wall necessarily until around the 1940s. And even then, it was mostly for cattle, not necessarily for like any sort of like human or like, you know, illicit, illegal thing going across the border or anything like that. It wasn't until the 1990s that Clinton decided to go on with operations such as Gatekeeper, Hold the Line, and Safeguard, which is built the official wall that we would, not the wall we know today, but where it would be along the point. In 1996, legislative, I think, Congress authorized more reinforced barriers, and in 2006, the Secure Fence Act authorized 700 miles of wall to be built. Now this is much shorter, only about 12 to 18 feet tall, not the 30-foot Goliath wall that we have today. So after that, in 2016, Obama added another 130 miles of fencing, focusing on enforcement. This is about the time when you start to get the secondary and the smart wall, which the secondary wall is more to just cut out people because it's just a bunch of barbed wire. It's mostly to slow them down after you get over the wall. The smart wall it tracks the movement of people who go across the wall through sensors, cameras, stuff like that. And by 2020, around that time, actually I think it was like 2019, Trump, of course, decided to build the wall and decided to put a whole lot more funding in, and that's when we started to get the 30-foot wall you see in like by the big cities and stuff. At this height, I should note, we will get to this stuff later on, but at 30 foot, the rate of mortality from falling off the wall goes from like a few percent to like almost 50%. If you fall wrong, or if you're like, you know, young, old, you're just dead, because most likely you're going to crack a bone or organ and just die. And that's not even counting the fact that it is covered in like a super like breaky off barbed wire. What I mean by this is that instead of like the normal barbed wire where it just cuts into your skin and it stays on the fence, it would be like essentially little razor blades that go into your skin, break off, and stay there, which can cause infection. That's the wire that we saw along the wall now. That hasn't really been updated since 2015, I want to say. 2021 to 25 is when we really start getting more patrols and militarization. You know, like Border Patrol is like doubled, almost tripled. I think it goes from like almost 30,000 troops, approximately, give or take a couple thousand along the wall. We don't have exact estimates, but that's approximately what we have. And so all of this costs, from 1990 to 2015, around $7 billion. From 2017 to 2020, $15 billion, average of 20 to 30 million per mile, and up to 46 million in difficult terrain or by city centers, which is like the high up walls, like, you know, in like the middle of the desert. And now, more recently, it's been up to 22 billion going into the wall over the last 30-ish years. Annual maintenance is also about 50 to 75 per, I think, 5 to 10 miles around there. So the wall total goes around 2,000-ish miles, or around 1,900. Physical barriers was about 800, give or take, depending on what you consider a barrier. And of course, like I said earlier, the walls in urban areas can be up to 30 feet tall along And as you get into the rural areas, it goes down from like 30 feet to 18 feet, I would say, to 5 to 12, and then stops. Yeah, 15 feet, not 12 feet, my bad. And these things are constructed of, they used to be concrete and metal, and nowadays they are basically mostly metal apart from the foundation. Here I actually have a piece that broke off the wall that I brought back. I don't know, I'll let you all take a look at it, just feel free to pass it around. This is from the gates of the wall, which the gates come in like two different styles, I should say. The ones that control water flow and the ones that control vehicles. This one I got from, I think, a vehicle wall, because it does not get much use. The water flow ones, they get opened and shut a lot, so they get maintenance. This one obviously does not. So, like Ruben was saying, the effectiveness of the wall is not great at all. But he, frankly, understated it. While it does do good in killing people, it does horribly in everything else. First of all, let's start with drugs and weapons and that kind of stuff. The way the cartel gets it through is either through the main checkpoints, border patrol. They just drive on through, usually by putting in American citizens, like paying them to go through. Or one of my favorite ones that we heard about is that they build trebuchets, which is, you know, the medieval thing, like a medieval slingshot, to just throw things across the wall. They will put like several ton hay bales of marijuana and just chuck it across the wall. I forget her name. Who was that one old lady that we talked to that had crashed into a roof?
There's a wonderful couple, we'll hear about them a little later. They pray at the wall. They have prayed at the wall every day for, I don't know, 11 years. They live 7 blocks away and they go down and they pray at the wall. They've had so many amazing stories about border patrol that they've met and all kinds of people. Anyway, they met a woman whose house is like the closest to the wall on the U.S. side, and she has had bales, 60-pound bales, hit her roof of marijuana at night. So.
Yeah, as you can imagine, something interesting I should note is that the property prices on the American side are not that great. However, on the Mexican side, you actually have very high prices. And this is, of course, due to it being along the border, but also is actually very economically stable. So you have, like, I don't know if you call them mansions, but, you know, very large, nice houses along, especially just straight along the border. You have both businesses and, you know, houses. Something interesting to note is that because of what is called healthcare tourism, which is going to other countries that have healthcare done you, because, you know, United States healthcare, stuff like that. All the dentist places are in English, which is something I thought was funny. And there was like, you know, like 5 dentist places per block, especially when you first come in.
Hey, Riker.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So you might want to wind it up.
Okay, so I'm going to speed run some of these facts. I'm sorry, I got carried away. CBM has reported 895 migrant deaths, 57% higher from the previous year. This was, I believe, in 2022, so a little bit old. IOM, which I do not know what that stands for, recorded 686 documented deaths or disappearances, not necessarily of the illegal kind. And it is also estimated that between 1 in 5 or 1 in 7 corpses are ever found along the border, because it's simply that difficult, especially in the more wilderness area. Because also, of course, they're undocumented, so you don't even know that they're missing. The past decade has an approximately 9,000 dead and several more thousand missing. Of course, we don't know the amount. And of the deaths that we have identified, 43% has been heat-related, 20% has been water-related, mainly drownings, and then, I should say, actually, the 43% heat also includes dehydration. I should mention that. The average age is between 18 and 25. There was a sharp decline after the age of 50 and a sharp decline at the age of, before the age of 16 on the people that we record going past. Now this could be because there's going to be more adults going through, which is likely, and also there was also the fact that old people and young people tend to die more along the border. I should also quickly mention the environmental and cultural impact. The environment essentially got cut straight in half. So you have like migration routes for animals also got cut off by the wall. Some animals, I should say the bigger ones. And like I said earlier, the security and militarization, it's around 8,000 troops per 100 miles of wall, which is about 30,000. I think, if I did the math right, for the entire wall. And that is it. I don't know who's going next.
Okay. So I'm going to be talking mostly about asylum seekers, which comes with a lot of stuff. One of our big things was asylum seeking and just immigration in general. We were at the border. So one of the first things we learned about was the detention centers in the U.S., which we've already had a little coverage over. But we talked with the program AVA, and I thought one of the interesting things that she shared with us was the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker, which had all of us stumped when she asked us. We were like, isn't that the same thing? But it's not. So basically the main difference is that refugees are seeking a safe place to live while in a different country from where they're looking to go. So whether that's their original country or if it's a different one and they're still waiting, like a lot of people, like Pelagi's family, stayed in Burundi, is that right? Yeah. Before coming to the U.S., even though they're originally from the Republic of the Congo. So that is the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker. Asylum seekers are people that are seeking asylum in the country that they have gone to. So a lot of the people crossing from Mexico into America are asylum seekers because they've already crossed. Asylum seekers, this is previous to the policy that made it not legal anymore to use asylum seeking as a reason to enter the U.S. because that is not current anymore. But before, it was still hard to claim asylum seeking while entering the U.S., mostly because they were denied because they haven't tried hard enough to the United States standards to find other alternative places to live. Or they don't have enough evidence that they were in danger or couldn't stay in their country. They look for a lot of like medical records and stuff. And a lot of these people don't have access to that, especially from the country where they're from. So like Ruben was saying, a lot of these people will be placed in detention centers in the U.S. And these detention centers, like he was saying, are pretty terrible. They're like prisons, but honestly worse. A lot of these people, they don't know what the next step is for them, and their families might not know where they are, and they have no real way of like contacting their families. So that's what AVA does, is they send in volunteers to just talk to these people, to give them some sort of like sense of the outside world, because like he said, a lot of these people can be there for years, and it gets very bleak and hard to live in that space.
Do you have pictures
No.
of the cards?
Of the what?
Of us filling out cards?
No, I had pictures, but they didn't get put in the house.
They're in there. That's why your name is right there.
No, I know, but no, not these pictures.
Oh, other pictures. Okay.
Yes. It's okay. Okay, so here's a few stats that she shared with us. Her name was Kat. I was sharing about Eva. At the beginning of the Biden administration, there were 15,000 people in detention centers. At the end of the Biden administration, this grew to 39,000. And in July of 2025, it is now at 52,000 people placed in detention centers. Like Ruben mentioned, a big reason for this is corporations make a big profit off of people staying in here. It creates a lot of jobs. And they're in affiliation with a lot of different corporations. The only one I remember her mentioning was Amazon. And she also said that 71% of people being held in these detention centers have no criminal records. A lot of them don't even have the misdemeanor of crossing illegally into the U.S. because a lot of them come through ports of entry looking for asylum when it was legal to claim asylum at the border. Moving on. I was going to share a little bit about Hoka, which Tanya has already mentioned. But Hoka was very sweet. She was one of the women who shared us her experience with immigrants. And she works with the migrant shelter in Agua Prieta with Frontera de Cristo, the church that we were with. Part of their work is to accompany people who are seeking asylum and haven't made it across the border, or have been across the border and have been deported back. And they help provide safe places for them against the organized crime. Because a lot of the time, she said, the cartel will be waiting for people at bus stops and identifying them, looking at them and seeing, oh, if they don't have enough luggage or if they look like they're from somewhere different, they must be an asylum seeker. And those people are vulnerable. So they will charge them to stay where they are, charge them a lot of money, and then charge them a lot of money to get them up to the border and somewhere they could cross. But like Ruben said, they don't really care what happens to them after they get the money. So they often end up in very dangerous situations. So that migrant shelter works to accompany those people and help them go through any kind of process to find them a safe place to stay. During our time in Agua Prieta, we walked 1 mile in the desert from a place in the ranch to the actual wall. I think there's a couple pictures in there. They're kind of out of order, so just keep going. That is the wall at the hill. Yeah, that's where it was 30 feet. That you can kind of see in the background here. That's part of the system they use to deter people from coming. It's like cameras and sensors, and you can see how far away from the actual wall it is. Next picture. Okay, this was our walk in the desert, a little bit of it. I think there's more, yeah.
On the Mexican side.
Yes, and this was on the Mexican side, walking up to the border. It was a pretty short walk. It was pretty hot, I can't deny that. But a lot, for us, we got there, we had water, and we got back and we had a car to drive us home. Most of these people, they get there, they don't have very much water with them. They get across and they have no idea the journey ahead of them. They have miles and miles that they don't even know they're going to have to go with not nearly enough water. And that is why so many people die trying to cross the border. Since January of 2025, the borders are seeing a significant drop in the amount of people trying to cross just due to the decrease in quality of life of undocumented people who have come to the U.S. This is because of a lot of the Trump administration's policies that allow a lot of violence and a lot of mass deportations of people that could be on visas, or a lot of cancellation of visas that they already have. And so a lot of people are looking and saying, well, I don't think the United States is even a safe place to go. So they're turning away because of how hard it is to be an undocumented person in the United States right now. One more thing I was going to share about is one of the organizations we were at, which we saw some pictures of us playing with the children earlier on Kate's part. That's where we were at the Women's Co-op. So this is just another one of the programs where a group of people saw an issue in the community and they decided to take it upon themselves to try and help and fix it. These women grow crops year-round, and they teach other women how to grow plants with the land and how to cook food and how to sew. And it was very lovely to meet with these women. They were all super sweet. They cooked for us, and I think it was one of the best meals. And a couple of us were able to buy some of their bags. I think we can pass these around. I think they have stuff in them, so be careful. But yes, these were made by the women that were working in the women's. And then if you go back, this is Hoka, who my mom was talking about, and me and Kate. She helped us with so many things, from educating us about her experience in the migration shelter to just translating for us a lot during the trip, which we greatly appreciated. And that's everything.
Okay, hi, good evening. I'm Maya, and I'm gonna talk, or I'm titled my section to myself, Doing What You Can, because I want to talk a little bit about some of the individual organizations that we talked to and that you've heard a bit about already, but especially just to highlight the importance of individual action and how members of the community in Agua Prieta have worked to advocate for themselves and to work to create a better, more united community. So first we're going to talk about AVA, you've heard about, the Eloy Visitation and Accompaniment Group. We talked with Heath and Kat. Something I thought was really interesting was them talking about the relationships, like the bonds that they formed with the people inside of the detention centers when they did their work. So as a volunteer with AVA, what you can do is you can exchange letters, or you can go in and actually visit with the people detained inside the detention center. So Keith shared a couple stories about some of the people he talked to that really stood out to him. One of them was a story about how during Christmas time he went in to visit with, one of the detained prisoners, yeah. And it was on Christmas time, so they asked him, like, do they do anything special for Christmas? And he was like, yeah, they do a different meal or something, but something that the people would do, those detained, they would make tamales. And obviously they couldn't make them professionally, but they would buy chips and meat from the commissary, add in a little bit of water, crush up the chips to make a sort of masa. And then, add in whatever meat they could, wrap them. They would wrap them in like a plastic bag and boil them or microwave them and then have tamales. And he said that the man he talked to was like, we know that some people are unable to afford the commissary, so we like to share and make those for everybody around Christmas time. And I think that's really important too, because it shows that even though some of these people are in such an awful situation, they still reach out and try and uplift one another. Then Kat was talking more about the letters, and we all each received a letter to read in the circle. And mine was a letter from someone named, let me remember, Ali Miri, I think. And they were a refugee from Afghanistan. So they wrote that they had left, I think the letter was from 2017, so it's a bit dated, but they had fled from Afghanistan and because of terrorism and violence. And they were detained in Iran for 2 years. And then afterwards, they made it to the US and they got detained in another visitation center. And in that letter, they wrote, I'm just scared that my life is going to end here. And I just want someone to write to me and tell me everything's going to be okay. And so then I talked to Kat about this afterwards, and I was just like, hey, like, I was just thinking some of these situations and some of these stories are so bleak. Like, how, as volunteers, do you guys kind of handle the emotional, the weight of it all when working with these people, and to know that you can't save them as volunteers. And what she told me I thought was really inspiring because it was so simple. And all she said was, well, that is true, but by building these bonds with these people, we're able to share that burden. And that means a lot, and that really eases the weight in my heart, or in her heart, but speaking from her perspective. And then the footage here is just from us making Christmas cards. So we wrote cards in August for Christmas for those detained in the Eloy Detention Center. And, sorry. No, you're fine. Okay. But that's all. Next section, okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is a picture of two men whose names I don't remember, unfortunately, but we met with the group, Daniel.
Daniel had started it 20 years ago, and then this guy's from Terra de Cristo. He's
But we met with people from Cafe Justo, Daniel, the man who kind of started it all, and they're a group that sells coffee, obviously. They have a coffee shop named Cafe Justo, but more than that, they're a program that was started to promote a workforce in Mexico. For one of the main reasons that people emigrate from Mexico, on top of the obviously safety concerns, is the economy. In America, you can work similar jobs for a lot higher pay. And so what Daniel wanted to do was to promote a workforce in Mexico so that they can promote a better community, so that less people flee and emigrate and then end up getting injured or maybe killed just because they're trying to find a stable career. So a lot of what they do is they will buy from local farms and coffee farms for a lot better price, for a very fair price, to kind of promote commerce in general and a better economy, and also just to make sure that people are getting paid a decent amount for their work so that they don't get tempted to attempt such a dangerous journey.
Yeah. Okay. Is that back to the beginning? Yeah.
Okay. And then I was just going to talk a little bit about Frontera de Cristo. So, as soon as we were in Mexico, our schedule was basically set by Frontera de Cristo. We've already heard about how we were kind of guided by other workers. They had the whole schedule and everything set up. And I thought it was really interesting to hear about the number of full-time employees they have. So I would like you to guess, if you want to. It's a number from 0 to 10. So hold your hands up and guess how many people are involved. Full-time. Yeah? Okay, the answer is 7, which most of you are really close to. But, I just really want you guys to think about it. I think Agua Prieta, what's the population of the town? Like
100,000.
100,000. There's 100,000 people. And Frontera de Cristo has worked to unite this entire community. And they help fund other nonprofit organizations inside it. And from doing all of this work, there are 7 people who work full-time to do that. And, but I do think that's just, it's really important. It's really inspiring to think of, because if 7 people are able to work full-time and create such an amazing program, who was so well ran, I remember I was so shocked when I saw that, because, you know, just reading like our schedule and from like the way that, you know, things were structured and who the people we were talking to, I was like, this is such a well-ran organization. And they were just like talking about it, and they're like, oh, you know, I don't know, like 7, maybe 10 at most, when we asked like how many people they have working full-time. Oh yeah, and there's just pictures of some of the people, some of the members. Mark that we talked about, Miriam, who was the lady who took Hannah, Kate, and I dancing, actually, so extra recognition for that.
Do you want to tell them what's hanging from the tree? Were you there for that?
No, I'm
Okay.
It's kind of hard to see, but she is pointing to a brown object hanging from the tree, and that is a shoe cover for the desert. The bottom of it is furry. And when you walk with those shoes, with that over your shoes in the desert, you can't tell what direction someone is walking. It just makes the footprint blurry, so you can't tell, so it's hard to track people. And as we were hiking, we found things just like items of clothing, a tarp, a lot of water bottles, just discarded along the way. That, anyway, I thought that was so interesting.
Hey!
So this is a group of, this is us, sorry, but we were also accompanied by members from Frontera de Cristo and another group, I forgot the name, I think it's called Capsic or something like that. And I didn't know this at the time, but they gave us this notebook, and I was reading about all the groups that we were with, and they're actually a drug rehabilitation community. So I thought that was neat too, to think that they decided to come and help guide us on this. And again, it's just kind of showing the kind of unity that they formed in Agua Prieta, where we have different organizations who are coming to accompany us and to learn about this, you know, situation, or the border.
Yeah.
So several of the men in this picture are in recovery, worked for organized crime at the border, and are now helping migrants through this organization. And this is David, and he couldn't believe that Hannah was my daughter because he said I was so quiet. And then Jonathan said she's not really. And I don't know what that meant.
Oh, skip that. I think pictures were added twice. But those, okay, this is good. Okay, so another organization we talked to is the Children's Ministry, which is based in the church of Verio de Valle, which is the kitchen that they're washing dishes in, actually, is in that church. And so the Children's Ministry was started by the lady named Maria, and she is the wife of David, who is the man taking the selfie a couple slides ago. And she is one of the full-time members working with Frontera de Cristo. So the children's, I think I already said, maybe not, but the Children's Ministry is kind of a organization under, like a branch of Frontera de Cristo. And she wanted to create a safe place for children, right now ages 6 through 12, to hang out and be able to play, eat, and study as they choose in a safe environment. The elementary school education for, or in Mexico, or at least in Agua Prieta, is a 4-hour day. And that isn't really quite enough time for children to actually learn as much, maybe, as they should at that age. And so Marina herself taught other volunteers, all herself, to help teach the children. So they don't do full lessons, I don't think, so like not like anything like taking a math class, but they do offer tutoring and help, and they do small like more like life lessons, like life skills that they need to learn. And so I just thought it was really nice to see, or I guess inspiring, I keep saying that, but like to see that this one lady was working already with Frontera de Cristo and decided like might as well keep going and create a safe space for children. And those are just some pictures. Okay, so the last thing I was going to talk about, which Hannah touched on mostly, is the Women's Co-op Douglas Prieta Trabaja. And as she said, they are promoting, you know, women working, and then they're sewing, you know, have their own farm and everything. But I want to also mention that the crafts that they sell, they do take to, like, they do sell not just at the craft center where we bought stuff, but they go out into markets. They'll go to festivals or kind of like fairs almost and set up stands and shops and sell their product. So, I think that's all.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll just try to have a few things. I didn't realize everyone would have so much to say. I was kind of worried they'd come up here and clam up and sit down after 3 minutes. So I just wanted to have maybe a few concluding remarks and talk a little bit more about the wall, which actually, you maybe are all aware, the wall isn't actually a wall anywhere. It's really a fence everywhere. It's mostly made up of these, they call them bollards, these big long steel square posts that are linked together. And maybe just kind of cycle through.
Yeah.
These are pictures from the U.S. side of the wall/fence, and you have the bollard fence like over here, and then there's a really nice smooth dirt road that the Border Patrol uses to zoom up and down and chase people. And then through a lot of it, they have these are actually, I think, anti-tank or anti-vehicle barriers, but they put razor wire on them. And the idea is if somebody jumps over the big fence, they'll be slowed down enough there that the Border Patrol can come zooming and get them. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. This is on the U.S. side, not very far from the port of entry. Now this is an earlier iteration of the fence that's been replaced by the other one. And when you get close to the port of entry, you can kind of see the big fence is behind it. There's a kind of a moat in between. You can go back for a second. When we were there several times, we walked the wall and were encouraged to stop, and actually on the other side, just stop and pray. And so this is a picture of one of the times we were at the wall and paused to pray. So as some of the kids mentioned, over the years, ever since Clinton came up with his prevention through deterrence policy, the wall has gotten higher and higher and more dangerous to climb. The wall has gotten long. The wall has also gotten longer, pushing people that want to cross further and further out in the desert. So the idea is that if it's dangerous enough, people will stop coming. The people haven't stopped coming. Now recently, since Trump has started randomly deporting people, migration has dropped off a lot. Like the what do you call them? The shelters in Agua Prieta have a lot less people, and we heard from somebody that the cartels, they're losing money now because people aren't crossing, have started extorting more like local businesses and churches to try to raise some cash. Let's go. So, now, go ahead and go on. So here's some pictures of the same wall on the opposite side. So if you look through here, you can see that smaller fence that we were praying in front of. And these are the same bollards that, so on the Mexican side, they, several years ago, raised some money and put in this sidewalk. Go ahead and start.
Yeah.
And they, and planted these trees, and they put in benches, and they invited local organizations and artists to decorate the wall. So we would spend some time walking from, you know, kind of ways down the wall toward the port of entry, where there are all of these pictures painted. And you can see they're painted at an angle because the bollards are turned at an angle, like the edge on. And so if you look at it straight, you can see right through it. But if you look at an angle, then it's sort of, it brings the picture together. Whoops, I'll go back. So one of the questions that they asked us was to, as suggest we reflect on, is what are we saying by the way the wall looks? Or like, what impression do you get seeing the wall from either side? So, you know, from the US side, in some ways, I would think of the wall as being, the wall is something that represents our collective fears. You know, as a country, we're worried that, what? Drug dealers are going to come across the wall, criminals are coming across the wall, you know, ravaging terrorists are coming to, you know, blow us up and, I don't know, carry off our women. You know, and because we're afraid that someone's going to come and do something bad, we, you know, put up ever higher barriers. We make them more and more dangerous to try, and we employ tens of thousands of, you know, border guards to try to keep people out. But in a way, the wall is a fantasy, because people will still, no matter how high the wall is, no matter how long the wall is, somehow people are going to come over if they're desperate enough. So it really struck me then on the Mexican side. I think one of the kids, I forget who, mentioned that, I think Riker, that the property values on the Mexican side near the wall are they're pretty high. On the US side, they're extremely low, because who would want to live there? But, you know, living across the street from that wouldn't be that bad.
Do you know
So
when that was built, approximately, that wall?
The wall, well,
This 30, this is 30.
this is the 18-foot wall. The 18-foot wall was Bush administration?
Around 1990.
Or no, it was Obama, maybe.
It was Obama.
It was Obama. So this was the Obama administration. Then in this area there are, I forget how many miles. They're working on replacing this then with the 30-foot wall, which, as they mentioned, is a lot more dangerous to climb. So yeah, I guess that's what I have. Are there other questions that we?
Who's paying for this?
Who's paying for this? You are.
We all are. Have there been any sections of the wall on the border that was ever paid for by the Mexicans or built by the Mexicans?
No. As far as anything anybody told us, well, I take it back. The first, I think I read somewhere that the first border barrier was actually built by the Mexican government back in like 1900 or something. And I forget, I think maybe that was the one that was built to keep cattle from crossing the border. I was like a little barbed wire fence. But subsequently it's been the US building barriers. And the one interesting thing is this, the wall is actually built a meter on the US side of the actual border. So the actual border is you know, right about where Tanya is standing maybe, or maybe just a little bit past, maybe at the edge of the path. I don't think we had any pictures, but there are these little interesting obelisks that you see, you know, beside.
They had one.
You had one? Okay. Those things are, there's one of those everywhere along the U.S.-Mexico border until you get to the, what's the river in Texas? The Rio Grande? Yeah. So when it gets to the river, then that's the border. But for the whole rest of the U.S.-Mexico border, there are these, you know, posts that actually define the border. But the wall is on the inside, because if we want to maintain the Mexican side, or, you know, they want to come around and fix it, well, the Mexican government doesn't want them messing on the Mexican side, so they have to put it a little further into U.S. territory so that they can come
So they
around.
have a place to stand to fix the
Exactly.
wall. Yeah.
And there are gates in the wall that they can come through to do that.
Can I take your mic?
Go ahead.
So I got kind of philosophical at one point because I got really exhausted, and then, but the wall. So one of the Frontera de Cristo men took us through the wall. As we were standing there, he was like, "This was 12 feet high. These posts, and people were still coming across with a ladder." So then they hung the barbed wire and the razor wire, and then the coyotes would put things through the wall to push the wires out, and then you could climb between the wall and the wires and go through. So then they put a mesh wall or a mesh fence so that you can't do that. And then people were still coming in, so they made it higher. And then they put sensors on it. Billions of dollars to keep asylum seekers out of the U.S. The drugs are still coming into the U.S. They've slowed some, but not, but at the cost of human lives and billions of taxpayer dollars. You can't fence out an idea. You can't fence out love and relationship. It just feels so fatalistic. Like, it doesn't make any sense when you get there and you see what they're trying to do, and it's not working. And the cartel is using the people they are human trafficking to bring the drugs in. The higher ups in the organized crime in Mexico are not risking their own lives. They are sending vulnerable people with the drugs, but the drugs are coming through the ports of entry, hidden in all kinds of crazy ways. When we were standing on the U.S. side, they said, you know, we are all very much on camera. And actually, the Border Patrol SUVs were going back and forth, back and forth. And Mark, who's been doing this for however long, said he's never seen that before. As we were in the van driving on the beautiful road, this road is gravel, but it is maintained. It is so that they can go really fast. So if one little person's down there, they can race over and get them. Anyway, but they were passing us. They had their lights going on, and he said, "Yeah, we told the Border Patrol we're bringing someone, a group here today. So they know Frontera de Cristo. They knew we were coming, but it was very weird to know how many cameras were on you and how many people were watching you." When we were on the Mexican side, she said, "Yes, oh yes, we are all being watched by the cartel. We are all on camera. They see us here, they are watching us here." It's bizarre. It's a weird place where all these eyes are watching you, but the human spirit cannot be stopped.
Any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions? No. I just wanted to conclude by saying one of the last things we did was with Jack and Linda.
Knox.
Yes, Knox. they took us on a walk along the border on the U.S. side, and it was kind of our closing point, and Jack just brought up a lot of hopeful things. It was a very intense week of a lot of facts being thrown at you and things you weren't used to, and just all these emotions, and he kind of concluded it with so much hope that him and his wife have been coming to the wall every day and praying, and they see all the violence that is happening, and they see the lives that are changing because of this wall, and they still believe that no matter where you are, it's God's land. It's not the United States government's land, it's not anybody else's land, it's God's land, and it was before the wall was built. And he said, I noticed that he said, and it will be when the wall is down, not if, but when the wall is down. So it was a very rocky experience at first, but the hope that they brought to it with all the people that are working towards being united and having a sense of community with both sides was very impressive, and I really appreciated that.
They've been praying at the wall daily for like 11 years or something. Do you catch how old they are?
Old.
I mean, they've been there, what, 12, 13 years? And
Yeah.
went there when he retired.
So at least 70s. I don't know. It was like 111. And Jack, older by a decade or two than any of us, and he didn't break a sweat, and he wasn't flushed. I don't know what. But they have built relationships with Border Patrol. This is an incredibly stressful job for Border Patrol. There's high turnover, high suicide rate for the Border Patrol workers in the United States. And they have had interactions where people have cried. It's not the job they thought they were getting into, but it's a government job with a pension, and they need to feed their families. Jonathan says I should stop talking.
It's 8:30.
Okay, are you going to pray?
No, I think you can. You have the mic.
It was an overwhelming experience. Let's pray. God, we see a wall that shows fear and violence, but we know the way of Christ is love and peace. Thank you so much for the ability of the 7 of us to go and have this experience and the way it will shape us from here on out. Thank you for this supporting congregation that comes and listens to us and supports us financially and believes in us. And thank you for your work that is never stopping. Amen.
It's good, guys.
They lived on the U.S. side.
Yes.